What's happening? Okay, so I get it. A lot of boring old white guys do 4 fundamental firearm safety rules videos. Good news today. I am super white. That's not necessarily good news. That's actually more of a con, especially when you go to Cancun. Like, trust me, this does not do well in Cancun. That's neither here nor there. But I'm not a boring white guy. Very white, not boring, so who knows? Maybe this video takes a little bit of a detour. But the 4 firearms safety rules. We have a lot of new gun owners in a post-corona apocalypse world right now, and I think speaking on behalf of a lot of firearms owners, hey, about all we really care about is that you know some basic safety with those firearms, because we don't need you buying up all the guns and doing really stupid shit with them. So let's just try to teach you 4 very simple, yet kind of super complex firearm safety rules, okay? And yeah, we'll just start it from the top, right? So firearm safety rule number 1 is treat your gun as if it's loaded. So if someone hands you a gun, I know nothing about this currently. I have no idea if it's loaded or not. What I know is that it does have a magazine in it. So what I'm gonna need to do to figure out if it's loaded, get the magazine out, which would just be your magazine release button right here. See, this is like super professional video right now. So you take your magazine out, and then what you're gonna do is you're gonna whack your slide in. Holy shit. That's ammo, everyone. That's the little tip is the bullet, but that's an actual round. So you need to treat the firearm if it's loaded, because it might be, okay? So as soon as someone hands you a firearm, see if it's loaded, okay? Take the magazine out, rack the slide to see if one of these comes out, because as I just learned, I had a loaded firearm. Was that staged in the video? Don't worry about it, all right? So, because this firearm is unloaded, you know what that gives me permission to do with it? Nothing. Treat it as if it's still loaded, because you will see plenty of morons. I've seen shooting instructors do this where, hey, once they know they've got an unloaded weapon, this thing becomes very loosey-goosey, technical term there, okay? Don't do that. Treat this thing as if it's loaded, even if you know for a fact that it is not. Even though I know this is not, I treat it as if it is. Firearm safety rule number 2. Do not let the muzzle, right? This would be the muzzle, basically the end of the barrel where the bullet flies out of it. Do not let this cross sweep anything that you do not intend to kill or seriously and or fuck up, okay? So what I mean by that, don't let this thing get pointed at something unless you intend to or are willing to do damage to it. This would be things like your children, your, I was gonna say in-laws. That's really, you know, don't let it, animals, don't let it point at animals. In-laws, it's debatable, everyone, okay? So that includes, like, if I'm walking with someone, if me and, let's say James here, so James, like, I could sit here with James, and you know what? Both of us are totally safe. This firearm's pointed in a safe direction. It's pointed at the ground, okay? I could even have the firearm up here, right? Going past my head, right? Nothing can go wrong here. No one's getting pointed at. If I am walking with my dog at the range and my dog is right here, okay, cool. I'm gonna be cognizant of that to make sure the firearm is not pointed at the dog. Do not point this at anything you do not intend on doing some damage to. Firearm safety rule number 3, keep your finger off the trigger, which would be this little bit right here, until you are ready to shoot. Once you get a bit more advanced with some training, you might hear that rule revised to keep your finger off the trigger until you're coming up on target with the intent to fire. Let's forget about that portion now and just say keep your finger off the trigger until you are ready to fire. So what you would not do, again, keep in mind, safe weapon right now. This is for the purposes of your demonstration. I would not just sit here casually like this. You look stupid. I get it. Every movie poster you've ever seen has Pierce Brosnan as James Bond doing this. You know why you would do this? You wouldn't, unless you're an idiot, okay? If you're an idiot, you would do this, okay? You would never do this. You never be at the range, be like, it's gonna be a good drill here, everyone. Watch this, like, and you know, and you're just waiting for him to call the drill. You don't do that, okay? Because this is the thing that once depressed, a bullet leaves the end of that barrel, okay? So keep your finger off the trigger until you are actually looking at a target and you're like, you know what? I'm ready to shoot. Cool, now you can touch that trigger. That's rule number 3. Rule number 4, be aware of your target's foreground and background, okay? This would seem, this one actually gets a little bit more complicated, because what that would mean is at a well, range, if you will, like we are at now, if I shoot this target, James, bummer to be James today, bullets don't magically stop when they hit things. They continue down a path. They might get stuck in a target. They might also go through drywall. In this case, James here is made out of rubber. And you know what happens to those bullets? They continue going through that, which you will notice is why we're shooting into a mountain, because I can see that there is nothing back there. There's nothing back there. I can completely comfortably shoot in that direction knowing I can see what is in my target's background, okay? So be aware of that. If you had to shoot in your house in a home defense situation or something like that, and you go, hey, look, I can tell you, unfortunately, you have a decent likelihood you are gonna miss. This is not from personal experience. I don't just shoot people in my house. If you ever come over for like a wine and cheese night, don't think that you get marked in my house like it's all good. But I'm saying if you were in a home defense situation in your house and you had to shoot and you missed, bullets, again, travel through drywall. Is your loved one's room on the other end of that drywall? These are things that you do need to think about. Also be aware of your target's foreground, aka what is between you and the intended target. Is this happening? Are you in a legally justified shooting that is happening in a mall and you go, okay, XYZ terrorist is 25 yards that way. In between us is the pretzel stand. Well, don't shoot the pretzel stand, man, because I like a good sourdough pretzel. You put some mustard on it. I like that as much as anyone, right? Don't take that shot, because you're accounting for what is in your target's foreground. Another scenario, you're in your vehicle, something happens in traffic, and you're like, oh my God, there is a crazy person who is about to shoot me on the hood of my car, and I need to shoot. Well, what's in your target's foreground? A windshield. How does that windshield impact the trajectory of that round? Because I can tell you it will, okay? These are all things that you need to think about. So while these rules seem very simple, and they are, if you master them, and that's all we're talking about here is mastery of fundamentals, they're actually very complex, okay? Knowing when you can and cannot touch that trigger is so much more complicated than you would imagine. Evidence to the fact that I swear every time I bring a new person shooting, we have this discussion about safety, and next thing you know, I'm like, why are you pointing your gun at me and your fingers on the trigger? Like, what in the absolute fuck do you think you are doing right now? Foreground, background, all very simple concepts, but mastering them is a bit complicated, okay? So take this for what it's will. Practice these things, make them habitual, and God, now I sound like Pat McNamara. If you don't know who Pat Mac is, super, great guy to go learn some stuff from. But anyway, point being, master these fundamentals, make them your friend, and we in the firearms community will thank you for it. Peace, everyone.